All right, so let's make a hand in Nomad Sculpt. So firstly, I don't start with a sphere. I start with a box. Now this box is just essentially the hand. So, you know, sort of thin, but I make a box for the general shape of the palm. So something like this. Okay, so that's the palm without the fingers. So of course then we have this piece here, and I do that kind of I don't know if it's the best way, but this is the way that I do it. So I just go to clay, and I don't use symmetry because I don't want it on both sides, but I just make like a circle. Like I just kind of build this up, make like a big bubble here, even on the side. So I just make a bubble here like that. And that sort of is like this section. So now I just take smooth, pretty big, and then I just smooth everything down. Oh, gotta be kind of careful not to press too hard when you're smoothing. You don't really need any super sharp edges. Just keep it nice and smooth. Okay, so that's pretty much our hand in this section here. Now thumbs are very difficult. Thumbs are quite difficult. I have a lot of issues with thumbs. So let's start with the thumb first. So we have this chunk right here, and then we can use a cylinder actually to go straight up. This looks like a cylinder. And then we can use another square for this part of the finger. So first we'll do the cylinder. We'll bring it over, make it smaller. So something like this. It looks about right. And we can make it a little longer. Okay. So we have the cylinder, and then we can make another box for this part of the thumb. So go ahead and validate that, and then I'll bring up another box. I'll bring it over, and we'll make it smaller. We'll flatten it out on the top. When I do my hand like this, the flat part is pretty much like facing up. So as you can see, there's like a flat part here, and then it flattens out there. So I'm going to use that same thing here. I'll flatten out this cylinder, and then it goes right into the flat part of the thumb. So let's stretch it out. So it is a little forward. So if this is the top part, we'll face it a little forward, kind of like that. Let's take a look at some other angles. Make it a little thinner. So something like that is not too bad. Maybe I'll make it a little fatter. So something like that is okay for now. Maybe I'll twist it a little more towards camera. Okay, that feels decent. So remember, we're just blocking now, so we're just blocking out all the fingers, and then we'll voxel merge them all together. So for these fingers, it's all pretty easy. I do one square here, I do one box, and then I just do like a longer box. I don't do 3 because sometimes it winds up looking a bit too much. My work is mostly like kind of cartoony, so we'll make this smaller. It's important to turn sideways too, so you have the right kind of girth. And I think I'm gonna start with the 2 middle ones. His hand is actually quite wide. That's okay. We'll just make his fingers a little bit wider. Okay, make it a little bigger. So I'm going to validate that, and then I'm going to clone it. And I'm going to bring the clone up. I'll stretch that part of the finger out, and I'll bring it down a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just going to put both of these shapes together. So I'm going to simple merge them, and then I'm going to duplicate, and then I'm going to bring it over for the pinky. I'll make the whole thing smaller. There we go. Make the whole thing smaller, and then I'm going to bend it out because it shouldn't be straight up. As you see here, it's not exactly straight up. When I have my hands open, they sort of kind of go out a little bit. So I'm just going to tilt it a little bit. Like so. I don't know why I feel old when I say like so. Okay, that's pretty good. So now I'm going to take this middle finger again, and I'll just clone it and put it here right next to it, and maybe we'll make this one a tad bit bigger. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now we'll do the same thing. We'll clone that, and then we'll bring this one over. We'll make it a little smaller, bring it down, and then we'll tilt it the opposite way of the pinky. And if you want to give, sometimes these fingers, if you want to give them a little more bend, you can just separate them, and then you can tap on the top one. You can bend it a little bit if you want. And of course, if you're modeling a hand or modeling some sort of grip or something like that, the reason why these boxes are great is because you can pretty much, actually let's grab both of them. You can adjust these quite easily. So you can take both of them, then you take the top one. So if you were bringing the thumb up like this or something like that, you can just follow through with these shapes, and then you can just look at your own hand for reference. But we'll keep it straight up for now. We'll keep it a little bent. We can bend the other ones too. So let's separate. Bend this one a little bit too. Why not? Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So for this thumb, another thing that I always do is once I get the shapes in the sort of place that I want. So for example, this thumb, I do want to connect, so let's validate it. So I'm just using the move tool, and I'm just sort of moving. I'm just sort of positioning it so that it connects, so that everything connects. And I think this is fine. We'll be able to smooth this out. So I'm not too worried about that. But with this cylinder, let's take drag, and we'll just sort of drag it up a little bit. Actually, maybe move. Let me just sort of drag it up just a little bit. And we can sort of make it wider on the bottom just so it sort of fits this, so it flows right into that thumb. Something like that. Okay, so I think our hand is looking pretty good. So the next part is just voxel meshing this together and then smoothing it out. And that's when you really gauge how your hand will look. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna touch this, bring it into that. Okay, there we go. It's better if there's no like big gaps, things like that. Okay, so now we'll just voxel merge everything. So we'll just take it all and voxel merge. We'll voxel merge at 250. Okay, so now everything is solidified as one. So now I'm just going to go through with the smooth brush and just smooth everything down. It's one of my favorite parts. I love using the smooth brush. I like my sculpts to be nice and smooth, and this is how I make them nice and smooth. I sculpt, you know, even if it's just blocking and it looks really bad, just voxel remesh at 200. 250 is not too bad. The only reason I'm not doing 200 is because I really like the shape of everything, so I don't want to change the shapes too much. And sometimes it can be a little soft with 200. So sometimes I'll go 250. I still use 200 to voxel to remesh things together, but you know, you can sort of play it by ear. Sometimes you can't even really notice the difference. So again, I'm just smoothing everything out. I probably could have moved the fingers back so they're aligned with the top part of the hand. But that's okay, I can just flatten them together. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now let's just flatten some of these. I don't know why this is so sometimes when I do it, it doesn't really have these lines on the side. Sometimes it does. But anyway, I like to sort of round out the edges of the fingers. And I just do that manually with the flatten tool. And it's organic, so I'm not too worried about making it all look exactly the same. You know, it's just they're fingers, so they're not supposed to be perfectly, they don't have to perfectly match one another. But I just want to take off these harsh corners. And then just smooth everything again. And just keep everything nice and soft, smooth. And here, flatten this. And remember, we talked about this kind of flat side here. So let's try that. We'll just go up from here and we'll just flatten everything. We'll just make it nice and flat. And I'll also flatten out the corners of the thumb. And we'll just smooth everything out. It's nice and smooth. Sort of brings everything together. And this is actually there's a little bit of space here, whereas I feel like there's not that much space. So I could always just take clay and just sort of add a little bit of mass there, and then just smooth it out. But it just kind of looked funny from a certain angle. We'll use flatten and just kind of flatten it out a little bit. And maybe we'll just run this all the way to the bottom. We'll see how that looks. Because when I look at my hand here, you know, it comes from the bottom of the box and it's, you know, it doesn't have like a divot going up. It's just flat. So I look at my own hand for reference. And just to double check to make sure things look right. We'll get rid of this harsh edge. And just smooth it out. Okay. And let's see how we can mitigate this sort of weird lump there. We could always flatten out in between where the fingers are. Let's see how that looks. Oh, it's not bad. Maybe I'll just flatten everything. Just flatten or just smooth everything. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I think that's a pretty decent hand. You can take your crease and you can sort of accentuate, you know, the different parts. Kind of like how we have that line here. You can add some mass to this side of the hand as well. can add this part, this bit, by just using some clay and then just smoothing it out. That looks pretty good. You can add various, you know, if you want sort of knuckles or something. You can add some details. You can take clay and you can add these, some of these lines. Try to stretch my hand out. Some of these lines here. You can add some of the, oops, it's a little big. But you just study your hand a little bit and just, you know, these are just ways that you can add sort of subtle details that just kind of give it a more realistic look. And like in my little TikTok, if you want to do nails, let's see, what did I do for nails? Clay. And I just made little U's with clay. So I make the little U's. We'll do this some for this thumb too. Actually, I probably could make this thumb a little longer. Let's use move. And we'll go clay. We'll add our little U here. I'm just going back and forth just so it kind of raises up enough so that you can see it. And then I'll go with crease. Then I do the nail shape with the crease. And it'd probably work a little better if I subdivided. Let's see. If you subdivide, you get a much nicer crease, but you do increase the you know, the overall size. So I'm just gonna go back because it doesn't look that bad. So that's how I would do nails. And then I would just paint them. And I could actually make I could have done these a little bit smaller. Let's see, what's another, oh, maybe like flatten fill. Let's see what that does. Flatten fill might be good to, if you want to raise the nail up some. Could use flatten fill. Never thought of that before, actually. And then I would just color them a lighter color. I would just color the nails a little bit of a lighter color. But that's essentially how I do hands. I haven't done a lot of human hands, but it's kind of fun when you just use boxes, and they can be frustrating, but it just takes some practice. I'm just gonna smooth this down so it's not such a it's not so harsh. I could have made my clay brush a little smaller, so it's a little less intense. There we go. So here's our hand in that color. So we'll paint it. We'll add a layer here. And then we'll go to red. And then we'll go to paint. We'll make it really light, really low intensity. And so on this new layer, I'm just gonna add some red. This will make your fingers look like they're, just give them a more natural sort of warm feeling. It's something I do anytime I'm drawing faces, you know, you do like the reddish cheeks, things like that. It really makes a big difference. And since the painting tools aren't that great, the good thing about, I'll add a little bit of color to the rest of his hand too. And the good thing about using the layer is you can actually, if you find it's a little too harsh, you can get rid of some of it with the layer. I don't know what happened here. Sheesh. Must have went a little too far with the crease tool. Fix that up with the flatten. There we go. That's a little better. Alright, so now let's turn on post-process, where we get some realistic depth and stuff like that. And let's put a light on it. We'll do that. That light is decent. Turn the environment off. But yeah, that's pretty much how I do hands. So hopefully this was helpful. Maybe we'll do a nice little turntable to close it out. But yeah, that's how I do my hands in 3D. Just under 30 minutes. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll catch you all in the next